snap it, and it's Trey Burton who throws caught. Bulls touchdown.
Here he goes. It's Hester inside the 30. Hester's going to take it all the way for a touchdown.
Fields stumbling, trying to cut it back. Justin Fields making magic happen. There goes Fields. Touchdown.
Hurts on first down, fires downfield. It's Deshaun Jackson back in the lineup. Missed the last 7 games, and he will take it 81 yards. A somersault into the end zone. His first touchdown of the season.
You're listening to The Pigskin Project, the world's #1 football podcast. Now, with more insights on all things football, here are your hosts, Ben Hansen and Ryan Matthews.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 107, where, as you guys can already see on your guys' screen, welcome in Tom Gorski. I'm excited to have you on the show. How are you guys feeling? Ben, I'll ask you first because we always ask you first at the start of the show. But how you feeling, Ben?
Tired. Guys, I am tired. At this point, I mean, you guys are probably sick and tired of me hearing or of me saying tired. Honestly, again, at this point, guys, expect the podcast to start like 15 minutes late the next couple of weeks. I'm just all the cards on the table. I love you guys. You guys are a priority of ours, but school comes first and all that stuff you're supposed to say in college. But I'm doing great outside of that. But how are you doing, Tom?
I'm doing good, and I can 100% relate with you. School has definitely been a drag. I feel you do a lot of homework. I'm finishing up my last quarter here at DePaul, and then once I'm done with that, I'll be getting ready for Northwestern here in the fall.
Nice.
There you go.
That's exciting, man. It's great. Lots of big news to catch up on. And I will say, I'm very tired because I've been starting a new job these last couple days, and I've been getting up way earlier than I'm used to. So because of that, like if I check out and for a little bit, like as far as zone out, don't judge because I'm going through it right now. Anyways, let's go ahead and dive right into our discussion. I mean, Tom, big Vikings guy. I've told people several times that Tom is the most annoying Vikings fan on Twitter. All jokes aside, he's very good follow. Go ahead and follow him on Twitter if you haven't already.
Wait, real quick for reference, was Tom the Marcus Davenport guy?
I think it was. I probably
yes.
Was.
I think it was. Yeah, I think it was.
I might have been. Yeah, I didn't like. I wasn't thrilled about the signing, but dang man, did I really defend the heck out of it?
I remember that.
I went to battle with Bears Twitter, and then I think they were arguing with me, saying how great of a value it was for like an edge rusher they signed, and I think he was from like the Titans.
Yeah, it was the Titans edge rusher.
I'm like, I don't even know where that guy is now.
Yeah, it's bad when I can't even remember his name right now.
But 3 years, 21 or something like that. Like I thought he got like seven-ish a year.
Yeah, classic Bears Twitter talking out of their what.
Yeah, I have calmed down over the years. I was pretty bad early on in college, going back to high school, but had to kind of cool it down a little bit. Kind of being like a journalist now over these last few years. Where maybe we'll take a little bit of the fandom out, just try to see things as clear as you can. So yeah, I am a Vikings guy, but I would say I am pretty knowledgeable on about all 32 teams for sure, though.
Oh yeah. I will say this. Okay, so obviously, the talk right now is that the Vikings are trading up. They made a move to get a second first-round pick. Obviously, that's what everybody's thinking right now. What quarterback, if you had the chance, obviously Caleb Williams is off the board because, thanks. But anyways, what quarterback do you want out of this class if you had your choice, let's say at 3, right? Like if whoever is still there, who's your pick?
It's without question Drake May. Drake May from North Carolina. He's just a perfect, schematical fit for what Kevin O'Connell wants to run. And it also helps when you have his old quarterback coach on staff in Josh McCown. He fits the mold of what Kevin O'Connell looks for. I believe he's like number 1 in the draft class at throwing over the middle he throws a great intermediate ball, and that's kind of what you need to know and something you need to be really good at to run a Kevin O'Connell offense. So all reports kind of go back to him. That's my dream pick, but I don't know if they're going to get up to 3. New England, as of now, does not seem very open to moving it. I've seen a few people on Twitter. I believe I even saw like one of their beat writers. He might have been for Sports Illustrated, who wrote like they're going to select Justin Jefferson and 2 firsts to get the pick. Where like they're pretty locked in on the pick. So if not, I feel pretty confident in JJ McCarthy. I'm pretty cool with JJ McCarthy. He is to me, him and Drake May are close, 1A, 1B. I like Drake May a tad more because he's at least shown the ability to throw a little more in college. But JJ McCarthy, with his age and just coming from a pro-style offense under Harbaugh, he's the type of guy that I think that O'Connell would kind of lean towards. There's been some Jane Daniels scheme, but I just don't think he's much of a scheme fit. So I don't think that's a really good fit for the Vikes.
I was gonna say, like, what's your least favorite, out of this class that, like, if you trade up and you pick this player, you're gonna face palm. Like, what's your take on that?
I would say I feel like this is not even just Vikings fans. This could be for like Broncos fans or anyone that needs a quarterback. I think if anyone like sticks or trades up for like Bo Nix, the entire fan base, whole fan base is gonna erupt. I don't think anyone likes it. I guess also for the Vikings, I think a lot of people would be very upset if they stood at 11 and then 23 and say they took like Penix at 23 just because of his medicals, his age. He's just not really a guy that you want to build your franchise around. He's more of a project that you might want to take in the second or third. I have a late second to early third round grade on him. He throws the heck out of the ball, but his medicals just really scare me. His medicals scare me so much. He's torn his ACL twice. I believe he had season-ending shoulder surgery. He's been in college since like 2018, but I can't really dismiss anything he's done at Washington these last 2 years because he's looked as good, if not better, than any quarterback in this class. But I think they want a young guy to really capitalize on a rookie deal and someone that really they could stick with O'Connell for the next 10 to 15 years. And I think that's JJ McCarthy, and I think that's Drake May. Drake May, I think, could honestly be the number 1 quarterback in this class, especially if Caleb Williams wasn't in it. I just think he's just so fluid with his. I got little questions about his. I don't like the way he throws. I feel like he kind of does a little wind up, kind of like Fields, kind of like the quarter release, but that can be fixed with coaching. But man, he throws a beautiful deep ball, and that's what you need in a Kevin O'Connell offense.
So
yes, we're split on this podcast about who quarterback 2 is. I'm team Drake May all the way. I mean, for me, the issue with Drake May is it's simple stuff. Like he misses the easy throws that like you just shouldn't. But I'm team Drake May all the way, and then Michigan fan, so I'm glad to hear that you're okay with JJ McCarthy because I know a lot of Vikings fans that would not be happy with JJ McCarthy.
I've seen that all over Twitter. And I think if you're not comfortable with JJ McCarthy, then this kind of sounds mean, but it's like I just feel like you don't know football. Like yes. It's like such a casual take because it's like turn on the Alabama game. He faced adversity against a Nick Saban defense, and what did he do? He led a second half comeback, and he's only lost 1 career game. He's a winner. You can't really you need to really emphasize that he is a winner. He makes the right throws. And if you look at Jim Harbaugh's history, going all the way, even with Alex Smith and even Andrew Luck at Stanford, they don't ask the quarterback to do everything. He's just the leader. He's just, just do what you're supposed to do. And that's how Harbaugh wants to play. Just because you're not asked to do something doesn't mean you can't do it. I mean, JJ McCarthy throws an unbelievable intermediate ball. I would say this, out of all the quarterbacks in this class, he throws some of the most beautiful balls into these tight windows that I've ever seen. Like if you just turn on the Ohio State game and he just threaded the needle, I believe it was the AJ Barnes, I think the tight end.
Yeah, AJ Barnes. One of the best throws. I think oh my gosh, my jaw was on the floor. Ryan, I don't know if you were over at my house at that point, but like that it was a wild throw.
I will say this. So you said that our podcast is split. As of, I believe this is early Saturday morning. I made a change to my quarterback big board, and this is something that we talked about on the podcast. Tom, I've got more questions for you, but I want to touch on this while we're talking about quarterbacks. So it goes as follows, right? Because there was a pretty massive change. If people remember what my quarterback board looked like, originally it was I had Jaden Daniels, I believe, at 2. Let me look at my my rankings.
You had Caleb, Jaden, Bo, JJ.
Yes, yeah, and then so here's what it is right now. Okay, Caleb Williams at 1 still. I feel like that's surefire. It should be everybody's.
Yeah.
Drake May at 2, McCarthy at 3, Bo Nix at 4, Jaden Daniels at 5, Penix at 6, and then I got Radler, Milton, Travis, Pratt. So just to round out the 10. But Jaden Daniels took a massive hit. And without going too much into detail, just wanted to update that for everybody that's keeping track at home. My next question is okay, so let's say for whatever reason, so I'm gonna hit on our next segment briefly. So there's some speculation going on that the Vikings and the Broncos are teams to watch for trading up to the top 10.
Yep.
I think you guys would be fine. I think you guys are going to be able to trade up and pick a quarterback. I think it'll be great. However, let's just play that other hypothetical, right? Let's say that you guys aren't able to trade up, or the Broncos take it and you guys are out, because there's obviously it's lying season. But there's things coming out about the Vikings prepping to potentially draft a quarterback in 2025 instead and start Darnold this next year. Given that, I mean, you have 2 first-round draft picks and pick 11 and pick 23, and then you don't pick again until 108. Okay, what are you doing with the first 2 picks if you cannot trade up for a quarterback?
Yeah, just to kind of pivot back to what you kind of started in case they do pass on one. There's one thing that's been pretty well known is that for Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, when he does make the investment for his quarterback, I mean, he's going to go get his guy. He's not going to settle for just whoever's on the board. Like, he tried to get Stroud last year. He tried to get Anthony Richardson. Even when he was at pick 23 to move all the way up to the top 3, it was reported that they sent the farm. So, I mean, him and Kevin O'Connell, they're kind of coming towards the end of their contracts as well. They're both due for extensions. So it's like they're not just going to settle for one. They're going to go and get their guy. But if they can't go and move up into that top 4 or 5 to really get one of those guys, I feel like they're pretty comfortable picking at 11 and 23. And one name that I have seen connected so many times, it's a need, and he's one of the best players in this class. If it's any other year, because the top 10 is really filled by nothing but offense outside of like maybe Dallas Turner sneaking in there or a Jared Verse. But they would feel very comfortable, I believe, at least, taking Byron Murphy, second from Texas. Because, hey, you can always add another Byron Murphy to the defense, but he also feels a need on the defensive line. The linebacking core looks really strong. Edge rushers are there. They've kind of rebuilt that secondary up, but their biggest weakness on the defensive line is without question the interior defensive line. You got Harrison Phillips, but outside of that, you have nobody, and you're running a 3-4 defense with Brian Flores. Like, they felt pretty comfortable. Like, they felt really good. I will say this, like, going in the free agency, like, they felt really good that they were going to land Christian Wilkins, and then the Raiders just blew him out of the water.
Yeah.
Like I was talking to someone because I write for a few Viking sites, and they have a few sources, and they went and told me, they're like it was like at the finish line. They're like they were under the impression that a deal was going to get done, and then like at the final hour, the Raiders just came out of like nowhere. So I'm thinking, wow, they really wanted to address that. And do they really believe in like second-year LSU D tackle Jacqueline Roy? I don't know. Like Harrison Phillips, they believe in, but like you re-signed Jared Ballard or Jonathan Ballard. He's not going to really get that done. So I can see them definitely targeting that. And heck, they could even do that in the 4th round afterwards. This is a very deep class. But I think 11, they're pretty comfortable taking Byron Murphy Jr. Or Byron Murphy II. And 23, that's an interesting one because they could trade back for a team that wants to move up for a receiver to kind of maybe capitalize on that second round to get a second round pick back. But I would have a hard time seeing them just not go defense again. I could really see them going like Terry and Arnold. That's a Flores type of guy. Maybe a Tyler Nubin, keep him home in Minnesota. Lewis Seen hasn't worked out. They got a plan for life after Harrison Smith. Or they could go edge rusher if Leate Latu is just chilling there. Like, I know they're big fans of him as well, but it's going to be interesting. I feel like I would say there's like a 90% chance they go for quarterback. Another guy, Michael Penix, if they really love him, he could be a reach there, but that's a guy that, they did just work him out in Seattle on Saturday. So he's another guy. But I think for sure they'll go defense at 11 or a trade back. And then at 23, we'll see what happens. They could go offensive line, look for a guard, like a Barton from Duke, something like that. But
yeah,
I would say they're pretty locked in at quarterback. Again, just another trade back would potentially be happening because, Kwesi, he loves to trade back.
Yeah. My last question, I don't know if Ben has any, but my last question, obviously I'm a homer. And we've had conversations on Twitter, or at least you have with other Bears fans, as far as, Caleb Williams go and before the Bears had clinched the number 1 overall pick for the second consecutive year. You were saying, like, if they were to somehow get Caleb Williams, that would make me scared. Right. So that's pretty much a lock, right?
Yeah.
But as a division rival, I have to ask you this, because just to expand on that thought, because I like the thought of making my division rivals scared. At number 9, who can the Bears pick that would make you worried as a Vikings fan?
That would make me worried? It's a pretty bland answer, I'll be honest, but I mean, I feel he's one of the safest players in the draft, but I mean, if Joe Alt magically fell to 9, I mean, that's Caleb Williams left tackle for the blindside guy for the next 10 years. I mean, those are 2 blue chip caliber players. But I don't even I want to that would be like my answer for sure. But I really don't believe that they're going to pick at 9. I really don't. I mean, you have 4 draft picks. That's it. Roma Dunze or Brock Bowers is a fantasy football dream, but Shane Waldron, I don't know if many people know this. I'm sure you guys do, but he was in Seattle last year. They don't run a lot of 3 wide receiver sets. They use 2 tight end sets, and they signed Gerald Everett to a fairly not expensive deal. But I would say a big enough deal where he's going to be on the field and have an impact. So, I mean, everyone's going to say Roma Dunze. If they stick there, though, and Dallas Turner's on the board, I think you just run that up to the podium no matter what. Because Dallas Turner and Montez Sweat, I mean, for the next 5-7 years, I mean, you're looking at, Everson Griffin, Daniel Hunter 2.0, or, just where you got 2 elite edge rushers there. So, I mean, there's a lot of options they could do, but I feel like trading back to acquire more draft capital is the priority. And someone can move up for Roma Dunze. I mean, I know Pittsburgh has had some interest in him. So you can move back from 9 all the way back to 20. You could acquire their 2nd this year. Maybe a future 3rd, throw in a 4th. Pittsburgh's moved up before. They moved up for Devin Bush, I believe, from 20 to 10 back when they moved up. So they're not afraid to move up. So I feel like they should trade back. But if not, I mean, Joe Alt's the dream. Protect Caleb for the next decade, because Braxton Jones, I believe, was a 5th-round pick. He's not a guy that, he's a guy that has impressed you up to this point, but I don't feel like you're locked in on him. So if you can get Evan, you get Darnell Wright at right tackle, and then you get Joe Alt at left tackle. I mean, does it really get better than a young core than that? Maybe like Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt with the Chargers. That's about it. But you are invested in Caleb Williams. That's something they didn't do for Fields. So now they should do it for Caleb Williams. And if Joe Alt's sitting on the board, I don't care. You just run up the card.
Yes.
I'm a big Dallas Turner guy. So, I mean, that's where I'm at. I think Braxton Jones, we could stretch him out for an extra year. So, I mean, I think personally, I respect that. This is the first I'm actually hearing a tackle argument. So this is actually pretty good. But, for me personally, it's an edge rusher. I'm sold on the idea of an edge rusher at 9. Even if, we don't trade back, I would prefer to trade back. I've said this before. For people watching and listening, on Mock Draft Monday, I said that, I would prefer that they move back, but we didn't on our mock draft. So go ahead and watch that. But, basically, if we're staying at 9, Dallas Turner's my guy. And the only thing stopping me is the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah.
That's it. So, Ben, take it away.
Yeah, no. In terms of the Bears, I think the best case scenario, you guys have both covered it, is to trade back. I mean, there's 3 like top edges in this class, I would say. And they were honestly projected to go anywhere between like all the way up to 8 with the Falcons, and then all the way down to like the mid-20s. So I think if the Bears can move back another 10 spots and pick up a second-round pick, it'd be ideal for them, and then they can still take their edge. But then the one last question for you, Tom, here before we move on to the next segment. The Vikings had made a couple splash signings here in free agency with Aaron Jones, Van Ginkel, Jonathan Grenard. Which one of those were your favorite?
Oof. I was so big on Christian Wilkins. Like, I thought it really was a done deal. But, Jonathan Grenard is like, I don't know if he was like my favorite, but he was just more of like, it intrigued me. Because when you dive in analytically, which is what Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah does, you compare him. He's 3 years younger than Danielle Hunter, puts up similar production, and you got him for about $6 to $7 million cheaper. So I like what I saw out of Houston from him last year. He's just him and Andrew Van Ginkel. I don't know if Kwesi just looks at PFF, because I know Matthew Collar, like Matthew Collar, he's a Vikings writer and podcaster. And he wrote a book about like analytics. And there was a quote in there when he talked to Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, and he said that he actually relies heavily on like PFF. Yeah. So that kind of like, I saw that blow up on Twitter like about a month or 2 ago, where people were like, "Oh, this guy's a terrible GM. He's just looking at PFF." But it's like, when you look at PFF, it's like Andrew Van Ginkel, when he did, because he was not a full-time starter, so obviously it's a little inflated. But I mean, when you look at, this guy was a pressure machine. He had a 90 PFF grade, which would be classified as elite. And Jonathan Grenard, I believe, was in like the 80 to 82 range. So like I'm like, okay, those are some pretty good signings. But now that I'm thinking about it, I think my favorite signing of them all was Blake Cashman. Because Blake Cashman, he had like an 85 PFF. There was one game this year for Houston where he had I believe like 19 tackles in a game. Like, he was like a monster. I think it was against the Jags. He went nuts. But he kind of fills that linebacker role. We've really missed that since prime Kendricks, not washed Eric Kendricks towards the end. Love him. He'll be a Ring of Honor guy. But the last 3 years he was in Minnesota, he really slowed down.
It was bad.
It was really rough to watch, especially like if you turn on like the Niners or Cowboys games, like just seeing him just go from sideline to sideline. He didn't have the same speed, but I really like going forward with the idea and the philosophy they have of Blake Cashman and Ivan Pace Jr. because Ivan Pace was a phenomenal pickup as a UDFA. Last year I had like a 4th or 5th round grade on him, and I just remember looking towards the draft. I'm like, that's what my dad. I was like, has Ivan Pace Jr. been picked yet? He's like, I don't think so. And then like 2 hours later, my dad's like, hey, the Vikings signed this Ivan Pace Jr. guy. No way. So yeah, I was very excited about Blake Cashman because I feel like Flores clearly has a vision, and he got all of his defensive guys. So those are my favorite. Aaron Jones is obviously a fan favorite because we've seen him terrorize the Vikings for years. But I'm cool with him 1 year, $6 million. I just felt like they spent their money very wisely. Yeah, and you could have kind of went the other way with it. It's like, oh, we let Danielle Hunter go, we let Kirk Cousins go, and next thing you know. You have all this money, and usually a lot of teams just throw it. But I felt like they spend it very wisely. Even recently signing Shaq Griffin, the former Seattle corner. So I think he'll be on the outside. He's definitely their cornerback one. Him and Byron Murphy, I think, will be on the outside. But I think they want to find another corner, which is why if they don't trade the pick, I could see one play at like 11. Like a Quinion Mitchell is a guy I could potentially.
Oh my God, please!
Darian Arnold, because I think deep down, it would be scary if Flores could get his way. But I feel like they want to move Byron Murphy to nickel full time, but they just can't yet until they see a little more out of Mekhi Blackman, who they took in the 3rd round last year from USC. But Caleb Evans, a former 4th round pick from Missouri, he just can't stay healthy. He's 1 concussion away from probably being out of the league, unfortunately. So they just did a lot of value signings. But to answer your question, the top guy without question for me is Blake Cashman. Just felt like great value. Like, I think it's only for – and what Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah did was every single cap hit, he added void years. So it's like every cap hit was only 3 or 4 mil. Even Jonathan Grenard, his cap hit for the season's 5.5 mil.
Yeah, Howard Roseman's special right there. And Cashman's coming home. He played football there in Minnesota. So he's coming home. I loved him coming out, but I'm just glad that you guys actually spent the money you had in free agency, unlike another team in your division.
Hey, don't worry about it. It's fine.
I love DeAndre Swift, so I thought that was a great signing, great value. But man, they came out of left field with that signing on day one. I'll be honest. I did not.
First
There's
signing.
no rumors, no nothing. No nothing.
Yeah, no. It's got to be weird rooting for Aaron Jones now, right?
Honestly, he's always been a guy that, I feel like for every NFC North team or just people in general when they have their fans, secretly there's always someone from the opposing team that they deep down kind of like. And it's like Aaron Jones is just such a really hard guy to hate. He's not cocky. Yeah. He's one of those guys, like, it's just prototypical where it's like he shows up to work, he does what he's supposed to do, and he goes home, and that's it. Like, he's a simple guy. But I like his energy. I heard he's a great locker room guy. I know they already presented him with a purple and gold sombrero when he signed his contract. So, I mean, he's going to help that run game tremendously. I think they overestimated how much the running back room was going to take a hit once they let Dalvin walk. Madison clearly wasn't it. Ty Chandler, he looked great. I don't know why they don't give him a full-time role, but it's just where the league's going, where it's three running back committee. You're not going to have the workhorses that we've seen kind of just growing up anymore. The league's kind of making that transition to 150 to 200 carries a year is pretty good for our number one guy.
Nice. Let's go ahead and get started with our next segment.
Ryan and Ben bring you weekly news.
And Tom. All right. So Eagles edge rusher, or I guess I should say former edge rusher, Hassan Reddick has been traded to the Jets for a third-round pick that could turn into a second. Don't hate this move.
In 2026.
Yeah. So, Ben.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, buddy?
Yeah. So, again, this podcast is all about having nuanced takes because people like to jump the gun and be very, black and white with it. Are the Eagles a worse team today than what they were before the trade? Yes. I mean, Hassan Reddick was a very good player, but football is much more than just, simply just putting the best, players on your roster. He was getting older. He's 30 years old now. Are you going to want to pay him the top money that you had already paid him? No. So basically you had ended up trading Huff and I'm going to say it's going to be a second-round pick. I would be surprised if it wasn't. Huff in a second-round pick for Reddick. Huff had the same amount of sacks, and he was had a better pass rush win rate than what Reddick had, and he's younger, and he's going to make less. It just made more sense. It hurt to see him go for that little, but there was a price out there. The rumor was he wanted a second-round pick. It was a second-round pick 2 years from now, which isn't ideal, but I mean, this is how he does. I mean, this is how Howie has all of these draft picks consistently. I mean, we have 2 first-round picks this year because 2 years ago we made a trade to get a second-round pick. Second-round pick. Yeah, sorry. It's tough to see a player like that walk out the door, but it was a smart move. It was a move that had to be done, especially when you signed Bryce Huff in free agency to $17 million.
Which, by the way, Jets, stupid. Why just
that move doesn't make any sense in terms that, again, you're basically giving up on your Will McDonald pick that you made just a year ago now at this point. And if you were gonna pay someone, why wouldn't you pay the dude that was already in your building that's younger? Like I said, Huff and Reddick in terms of rushing the passer are similar, and one's younger and is gonna cost less. So I don't know. It didn't make any sense to me in terms of the Jets, but
Tom, what were your reactions to this, if any?
Yeah, it's just kind of like what Howie does. If they can't afford guys or they don't want to pay them, he does a pretty good job at just flipping them to get something. And he's the type of guy that always thinks 2 steps ahead. So I think in his mind, it's like, look, we drafted Nolan Smith like a year or 2 ago, and he's a guy that we have a lot of belief in. They have a lot of other guys on the roster who could really step in, and they already signed Bryce Huff. But he's also probably thinking that that Jets pick could be pretty high, especially because I believe that's the year, potentially a year or so after Rodgers is expected to not be there. So that if he's going to look like a genius if they finish like bottom 10, and now you're looking at a top 40 to 45 pick area, then it's like, wow, you're going to look 2 years later, wow, the Eagles got 2 of those. So I think it's just like I like to call it a Howie Roseman special, because he acquires guys for cheap and he could sell guys for a premium. It's like he's playing Madden or he's like playing Dynasty fantasy football. It's just it's just who like Howie Roseman is. He's a wizard, and he's just a kid having fun out there. So I get it for both sides, and the Jets. Oh, they make a lot of moves that I question, and we don't even know. We don't even know if Joe Douglas is making the calls or Aaron Rodgers. But I will say, when it comes to defense, I'm gonna trust Robert Saleh over most coaches in the league when it comes to defense, because he is one of the best. I would say he's one of the 5 best defensive play callers in the league. I know some people are a little sour on him over the last few years because of Zach Wilson stuff, and maybe he's not built to be a head coach. But if there's one thing that guy can do, is he could coach a defense. I believe so. If they got Reddick now, then you're also looking at I believe they drafted Jalen Johnson a few years back in the end of the first round, I think, out of Florida State.
Jermaine Johnson,
yeah, Jermaine.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, because I remember that year, because I know they were trying to get they were trying to move for Breece Hall actually that year, and they traded for him instead. And Breece Hall fell to them anyways, because I just remember I fell in love with that draft for the Jets. But yeah, I mean, that's just a really solid move. I mean, the Jets are going to go all in. So I'm curious, are they going to even go and take like Brock Bowers at 10? Like, they are so all in right now, where like they want to capitalize. And I think they don't even care about draft picks, because they want to bring a Lombardi to New York, and hopefully Rodgers lasts more than 30 seconds on the field next year. And just going forward, because they're going to have all the options and all the weapons. The defense should be top 5. I mean, I feel like you can make an argument that if Rodgers doesn't go down last year, that's probably an 11-win team. You could potentially win that division. I mean, everything was clicking for him. Breece Hall was clicking. Garrett Wilson was creating separation. They just, couldn't hit him in the chest, whoever was throwing in the ball. So the offensive line was a mess. They fixed the offensive line this year. So I'm very excited from the Jets, but I really feel like it's a win-win for both sides, just because Reddick kind of, he gets to go join a contender and he still could get paid, and he could probably get a multi-year deal from the Jets, because I'm sure they'll restructure Rodgers' deal and add some void years to really maximize on his value and just really maximize on their window over these next 2 years.
Next up, excuse me. Okay, so this one I'm not going to dwell on very much, as we normally do. Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice was involved in a major crash in Dallas, causing multiple cars to spin out on a busy highway. The investigation's still going on, so nothing's really happened yet. But something will happen eventually, whether it's a punishment of some kind, maybe it's a fine, whatever it is. But it's truly unfortunate. These young stars kind of getting into trouble. It's not exactly what you'd like to see for the league. And that's where I'm going to kind of cut it at that topic, just because I think that I, in a nutshell, spoke for both of you guys there, so
you covered what needed to be covered.
This is the biggest news out of the last week that happened just this morning. The Bills are trading star wide receiver Stephon Diggs, a 2024 6th and a 2025 5th, to the Texans for a 2025 2nd. Holy steal, in my opinion. Ben, I already know briefly what your opinion is, but I want to start with Tom here. Tom, what's your instant thoughts for this, other than holy cow, CJ Stroud, congratulations, buddy, you're gonna have a heck of a team.
Yeah, facts. I think the first thing that really stood out to me was that Buffalo was just desperate to get rid of Diggs and just get him out of that building. I believe now Diggs has the 5th or 6th highest dead cap hit in NFL history. At $31 million, they're just going to eat for him not to be on their team. So from Buffalo's standpoint, that really just surprised me, because I thought they would have found a way to really just repair the relationship.
Yeah.
Obviously, Diggs and I believe Joe Brady's the offensive coordinator. Like, they just do not see eye to eye. Now, I know there's something that Diggs really despises, and that's being a run-first team. That's kind of what led to his departure from Minnesota years back, is because the offense ran through Dalvin Cook. Now Buffalo's offense is running through his brother, ironically, James Cook. So wow, that's crazy. So I think he just wanted to go to a place where he would see opportunities and he could win. I'm not surprised by the return. He's come down off a down year. He's 30 years old, going on 31 years old. He's been healthy these last few years, so he might be due for an injury. But I think what's really ironic about the whole deal is that, the Vikings draft pick, the one that Houston got, so the Vikings kind of helped make it work, I guess, because the Vikings draft pick 40 or no, not 42. It was a 25 second. Yeah, so a 25 second went back to Houston. That was Minnesota's pick. But I don't know what people expect. I've seen a lot of people think that it's a very cheap to get a Diggs, but it's it's just, I don't know. It's just I don't feel like you're going to see receivers, if you're not super young anymore, go for multiple firsts. You're not going to see a Julio Jones type deal like we saw with Atlanta years back when they moved up in the draft to get him on draft day. I think it was 2 firsts and more. You're just not seeing that. And even when Diggs was traded from Minnesota to Buffalo, I think it was a first, 4th, 5th or something like that, and they got a 6th or 7th back. It was something along those lines, where it doesn't surprise me. Diggs has been very difficult to work with. I'm curious on his fit, though, because Nico was a pretty good X last year. And now I think Diggs is going to kind of take over that role. What does this mean for Tank Dell? But, in fantasy football, Stroud to the moon, right? Stroud,
oh my gosh.
They are setting him up for success. So, that's a great deal for Houston. They are going all in, and they're really doing everything that teams should do for a rookie quarterback. And we've seen Chicago do that with Keenan Allen recently. They're kind of picking up on that trend. Maybe Carolina will eventually figure that out for Bryce Young. I think it's a really solid deal. I'm very curious now what Buffalo does. Do they go with Donnie Mitchell at 28? Because I don't think they're going with the speedster. You got Shakir and you got Curtis Samuel. You're looking for a big body guy.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to keep an eye on, and that's just my biggest takeaway is now all eyes are on Buffalo in the draft, because you can't go into the year with Curtis Samuel, Khalil Shakir, and whoever else you have on the team.
Mac Hollins.
Yeah. Ben, your thoughts?
Yeah, no. Again, the big takeaway now is I would be very surprised if they say at 28 and try to wait and see, because now people know. They have basically put on a big red flag that said we are going to take a wide receiver in the first round. So teams that now want a wide receiver now know they have to jump the Bills.
Yep.
And as a reaction to that, I think the Bills are going to have to trade up. But yeah, in terms of compensation, it's fine. I don't think it was, it sounds about right. Me and you had a conversation. Stephon Diggs, again, he had that down year. Ryan, there's a 30-year-old wide receiver that put up 1,183 yards and 8 touchdowns, and he went for a second. And there's a 31-year-old wide receiver that had 1,243 yards and 7 touchdowns, and he went for a 4th. It's that. For those who are not aware at this point, I'm talking about Keenan Allen and Stephon Diggs.
It's different, but
yeah, of course it's different. But Stephon Diggs obviously has been a better player throughout the course of his career. But when we look at what Keenan Allen went for a 4th round pick, I think the 2nd round pick for Stephon Diggs is right up what he should have gotten paid. Good move for both sides. I don't think it was a bad move by any means. Like you guys are saying, CJ Stroud he is set up for success. And the under the radar move that people don't talk about now too is Joe Mixon. Again, now he has 3 really good pass catchers in Dalton Schultz and Joe Mixon and an offensive line. I don't know what their odds are to win the Super Bowl, but it might be a fun little $5 bet to do so. This is the time to pounce on it. This is why having a rookie quarterback contract is honestly the biggest advantage in all sports. I like it for them. They're gonna be fun to watch down the next couple of years.
I'm definitely gonna check that for you too, just because I'm interested to see what the future is on that. Just because, let me see here. That's very interesting as far as Super Bowl winner, right?
I think they're plus 1,400 this year. I think I could be wrong though.
Oh man.
But
it's right there. Okay. The Houston Texans are at plus 1,600 right now.
1,600. Yeah.
So that's huge.
That might be again a fun.
I take them over the Chiefs roster right now.
That's for gosh darn sure. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. If they get – this is a pro 80 Mitchell podcast, so I love that you mentioned his name there, Tom. I would love to see him to see him there. But again, now with everything, not to again harp on it too much that you had already said, Ryan, with the whole Rashida Rice thing, now you have two teams that are in the back end of the first round that are both now going to try to trade up to get a wide receiver, because only competent wide receiver there for the Chiefs was Rashida Rice, and he's up in the air. We don't know what the heck's going on there too. So it's going to be really interesting to see what ends up happening there. And honestly, as an Eagles fan, I wouldn't be too upset if they traded back with the Bills or something and picked up an extra third or future second.
What about Buffalo moving up to 9 from Chicago, just taking a
that would be wild.
Just break in fantasy football. I mean, it's not like we haven't seen teams move up. I believe I think Kansas City moved up from the end of the first all the way up to like 10 for Mahomes. So I mean, it's possible. So I mean, but the problem is this is a deep receiver class. So
it is a good receiver.
You can see 5 or 6. One guy I would love to see in Buffalo because I think he'd be fun. He'd be like a Cole Beasley on steroids, but like I would love like Ladd McConkey in the spot there for Buffalo. Like that would be so fun for me at least.
Yeah, Xavier Legette, Ryan's boy, I think would be a lot of fun with the Bills. Like that would be a lot of fun. I like that.
I just want to say I put out a tweet. I'm not entirely sure if you guys saw it, just because it was like a response to another one. Eric Lambert, former guest on the show, tweeted out about Malik Neighbors' interest in Los Angeles for the Chargers. And he's like, hey, like if Marvin Harrison falls a little bit, I tweeted out saying I would be in favor of thanking the Texans for their hard work and dedication to give us the number 1 overall pick a couple years ago by doing exactly what they did and trading up and getting Marvin Harrison Jr. Because, I mean, yeah, Tom, how would that feel? Like you have to play against Marvin Harrison Jr. and Caleb Williams. Oh, and we still have DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. Like, yikes.
Yeah, I mean, on paper, that looks great.
It's on proven talent.
Yeah, I mean that's like the dream. Waldron would definitely have to open up the offense to make that work. Or like, I mean, that's where I'm kind of like Chicago. It's like if they take a receiver, like is that Keenan Allen's replacement? Like I just don't know because you don't see Waldron really throw a lot of like 3 wide receiver sets. Because like JSN only had 93 targets on the year, which is abysmal for as talented as he is. And then you restructure Tyler Lockett and you keep him this year, just continuously blocking him. Where I feel like whoever Chicago trades up, it's like you're getting blocked no matter what by Keenan Allen and DJ Moore and Marvin. People say he's this complete receiver, but if you dive deep into the numbers, he didn't really spend much time in the slot. I know that's Keenan Allen's area, but it's like, what about? I don't know. I mean, Marvin, I can't imagine he falls past New York at 6, worst case scenario. I mean, because I know people think the Chargers will take him. I don't think Harbaugh would, just out of spite.
Yeah,
because he doesn't want to. He's like, I don't want to know Ohio State guy. You kidding me? Even though he torched him, I mean, I'm intrigued. I'm still in favor of Chicago taking Brendan Rice in the 3rd round.
I will say, before Geno Smith got more popular, you didn't see a lot of 3 wide receiver sets. Last year, though, they were okay. According to this report, they ran more 3 receiver sets this past year. They were the 10th most 11 personnel at 71.4% in week 6. Weeks 1 through 5, they ranked 23rd and 11 personnel at 53.2. So they're going up, and they continued to go up towards the end of the season as well. So you saw JSN go on the field a little bit more. Whether he got targets or not, that's up in the air. But at the end of the day, like I think there's a lot more to Shane Waldron than what you're seeing. Because that was literally like I remember when they hired Shane Waldron, what I had told Ben about was that I'm excited to see more spread out sets than what we're used to, because with Chicago you see a lot of single wing. You like to see I mean, there might be a couple wide receivers where it's like a duo kind of set. It's like you got to spread it out a little bit more in this league. You watch any primetime game, I promise you, if it's a competent football team, they're running a lot of 3, maybe even 4 wide receiver sets on long, long downs. And that's not something you saw from Chicago a lot. You'd see like sweep plays and stuff like that on 3rd and long. It's stupid. But Shane Waldron is somebody that I expect to continue to utilize that. And that's why they're looking at, getting another wide receiver, not just because Keenan Allen is aging and he's on his last year of his contract. They didn't give up very much for him. So, if he were to walk, it's not really giving up too much. You're letting your quarterback grow for a 4th round pick. That's not bad. My thing is, if you were to draft a wide receiver this year and develop him with DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone with, like I just said, developing your quarterback and developing a wide receiver amongst 2 of the greatest receivers in the game right now. I would argue top 15 for sure. So, because of that, it's interesting, that you say what you do. But I'm going to defend Shane Waldron here, because I definitely think that I definitely think that in 2022, when he was making his debut as an OC, he didn't do that a lot. And then after that, it was like, wham, here we go. More. So, but anyways, let's dive into this next really quick. We're getting into some speculation, right? So we touched on this briefly last week. The 49ers and Brandon Ayuk are not close on a deal. So obviously there's going to be some trade speculation, just like there was last week. Nothing has transpired exactly. I think one little cryptic Instagram story post from Brandon Ayuk, but other than that, nothing really happened. I would expect him to be traded around draft time if he's going to be moved. But at this point, it's like, I really don't know if they're going to move him at all. They might stretch this out into training camp and stuff and extend him then, or maybe even later. But, I'm just saying, like, there's a lot going on about Brandon Ayuk, especially after, Stephon Diggs gets traded and everybody wants to look at the next target, like who could be traded next. And this is definitely one of those guys. So Ben, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I would be very surprised if he ends up going anywhere. John Lynch isn't a guy that lets his guys that he drafted just walk out the door and trade him. I'd be shocked if he leaves. I mean, we're looking at the super teams that the Texans and Eagles are creating. At this point, you need a super team to continue to at least push for contention. And, they couldn't win with the super team, so there's no way they're going to win without Brandon Ayuk. I would be, again, very surprised if a GM of John Lynch's caliber lets Brandon Ayuk walk out the door.
Right. And then Tom?
Yeah, I mean, just the NFL today, it's not like it used to be. Guys can't really hold out. So, like, the Niners could really draw out this entire process with the franchise. They could hold them. He's still under contract for this year. Then you could franchise tag him for next year. So now it's like, okay, you got him for two more seasons. At that point, it's like, where's the trade value? Or, like, they really could just kind of hold him hostage if they really want to. I think they would be open, because I know there was like some rumors that kind of floated. I saw on Twitter, I don't know if they're real or not, about him to like the Jaguars, that like I guess the Niners declined Zay Jones and like the 17th overall pick, or the Jags didn't want to do it, where the Jags didn't want to trade the 17th overall pick and Zay Jones for Ayuk. So like that's where I'm at with the Niners, right? I feel like the Niners, they view receivers as pretty replaceable. Whereas like, hey, if a team offers a top 20 pick, like we're pretty interested in moving them for that point. Yeah. But if you're offering like a second and a fourth, it's like, no, I think we'll try to work our way through. But another thing is, I think that's not being talked about enough is, anyone else feel like these receivers are just waiting on each other to sign? Like CD's waiting, Jefferson's waiting for one of them to sign. Now Ayuk's waiting. Like all these guys feel like just kind of like waiting to sign here a little bit.
Yeah, Jamar as well. Yeah. Next up, the Jets would like to trade down from 10 to a quarterback needy team. Nobody's going to be there at 10 worth trading up for. So, hey, Jets. Yeah, keep being the Jets. That's all I got to say. Vikings and Broncos, obviously we already talked on potentially trading up to the top 10. We don't need to touch on it anymore. So the Bears obviously they came out and said, like, we're going to divide our front office into groups and see who's going to advocate for certain, positions and whatnot. every good team does this, so I'm not surprised. But at the end of the day, there's a report that said Eberflus really likes an edge rusher at 9. And like we had said before, we're a huge advocate of that. They did meet with Dallas Turner. I believe they met with Jared Verse. They're doing their due diligence. They also met with Chop Robinson as well, but God forbid they draft that guy.
If you guys draft Chop Robinson at 9, that'd be worse than Clean Farrell at 4 or whatever it was.
Chop's a dude. Like, Chop is so raw.
But not a top 10 guy.
No,
but he's not. It's his inability to finish with his traits that he has is wildly concerning to me. Gets in the right building. Again, he has all the tools. Yeah. But if he hasn't been able to put them together, which is like concerning to me. But I don't know.
I'm gonna be excited to see what they do, and everybody can tune into our draft show to find out live with us because we'll be doing live reactions as well. And hopefully this guy will be helping us out with that too. But fingers crossed. Nothing promised yet. So we'll find out. Let everybody know as soon as we get closer to draft time. But anyways. The last point on the speculation is that Caleb Williams apparently was in Chicago over the last 24 hours for his top 30 visit, and he was having dinner with some of the players in front office as well. So exciting. But nonetheless, I promise you he does not have a key card to Hallis Hall, and I promise you he does not have a locker spot yet. I promise you that has not.
You sure the
yet.
Bears aren't tampering before the draft?
Yeah. I don't know.
I wouldn't run it by the Bears.
Pro football isn't the only game in town. Let's take a stroll to Ben's College Corner.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are coming right back with you with top running back prospects. So, I mean, Ben, I don't know how much work you've done. I know I have my guys that I like. There's I'm going to tell you right now. So essentially, like when when we figured out that we were going to be doing this for the segment, like positional wise, I kind of decided that I'm just going to tell you what my guys are, just like I did. What was it, last week? And
a couple weeks
essentially
ago.
That's it. Just because it's just simple that way.
Yes, it's much. It's something good. I like it. Tom, feel free to chime in whenever you hear something you want to, make a point on. There's one guy in this class that we disagree on, like
Bucky Brooks, baby.
Irving. Disagree on.
Bucky Brooks sounds like a Madden character for some reason. I don't know why I
Bucky
said that.
Brooks is
Listen,
the NFL
4.5 hours of sleep last night. All right, 4.5 hours of sleep. Not used to that.
Yeah, there's a guy that we disagree on Bucky. Like Bucky maybe is 10 for me in this class. I don't like Bucky at all, but we'll get into it. But go ahead and hit me with the guys that you like in this class.
I'm a huge Marshawn Lloyd guy. I mean, so much fun, just electric. Dude's a human wrecking ball, man. Like, and he's fast. I really enjoyed watching his film. I mean, it's just cut and dry. That's what it is. And I'll kind of preface my next couple with everybody. This is not a strong class compared to other positions, so we might not spend that much amount of time on it. But I mean, everybody knows how Ben goes into analysis. So, I mean, let's be honest. We're probably going to, analyze it a little bit. But anyways, just giving you crap. No, Lloyd's one of them. And then the other guy was Bucky Irving. I'm going to call him Bucky Brooks from now on just because I messed up, and that's hilarious. But anyways, he's also a lot of fun. Like, he's that short, stocky kid that's just, I mean, he's really fast. And at the end of the day, like, I mean, he did really, really good things for Oregon, and I am huge on that. So, Ben, I'm gonna let you take it away so you can go ahead and completely, roast and toast my guys that I just said that I liked, besides Marshawn Lloyd, because we agreed on that. But no, we agree on Marshawn Lloyd. I like Marshawn Lloyd. We'll get to where he falls in my top 9. Technically, it's a top 10. Technically, Bucky Irving is 10, but I don't like him, so we're going to spite him and not do a top 10. But to get into the Bucky Brooks conversation,
if you are going to be the short, small running back on your roster and on your team, you better be an athlete. And Bucky came out and did not test like that at all. Bucky came out and ran a 4.55. He came out and didn't even jump and get.
Nope. Uh-oh.
Well, one thing I can definitely test to is that Bucky Irving did not test well. Athleticism, I know he was a really big letdown. I was watching the combine. I believe he sits at like 5'9", 192. So you would hope for 4.3, 4.4 speed. He kind of reminds me a little bit of a few years back. Someone who really disappointed with a lot of just hype was Kyron Williams. He's kind of been like that one outlier because I think he ran like a 4.7. Like it was just absolutely brutal. One thing I'll say that Bucky Irving does really well though is he really knows how to attack the gap. He's not much of a zone guy, but he really just knows how to attack the gap. And he is tough. Like if you watch his film, I mean, he is tough. He does not go down easy. He will drop his head and he will just keep moving forward. But I like him as a weapon. I really do. He's big in the receiving game. Yes. One of my favorite fits for him is not just for him. There's some other guys, but I'm a really big fan of him and potentially Arizona being mixed in with James Conner.
Ooh,
that's like my two favorite guys who I think would fit really well there would be like Bucky Irving or Jalen Wright. Like Jalen Wright, he's like my I'm going back and forth because this whole class, like you could honestly argue that 1 through like 5 or 6 could be the RB1 in this class.
Oh yeah.
I've just before you even like hit me up about like the segment or this episode to even have me on in general, I've been diving into running backs these last like 3 or 4 days.
Nice.
Just diving deep into film, and to me that's not a very top heavy class. It's a class where like you're going to be looking to see who makes the first move, but there's going to be a lot of value. I feel like on day 3. Like there's more sleepers I like in this class than there are guys that I like at the top. Like
you're not really. I don't expect a guy being taken in like the second round. You know what I mean? Like it's a running back.
Brooks, Brooks or Benson are probably two guys that could jump.
That's what I was gonna say too. For those of you still keeping score, Jonathan Brooks is another one of those guys. Like I said, I'm used to getting more sleep than I did last night. So looking into it, like. I completely forgot about a couple guys. So, I mean, looking at it right in front of me, I'm like, wow, like I'm an idiot. So Jonathan Brooks is another one of those guys. And then I'm excited to see how Blake Corum does in the pro level. Just because like, okay, Tom, you said it before. When you have rivals in sports, it sucks to say it, but you have favorite players, right? Blake Corum was that guy. You want to know why? He won me a lot of money, and he scored a lot of touchdowns, and he was a lot of fun to watch. But, so there's that. And then, I mean, I don't know. Jonathan Brooks, I think, he's electric too, and I cannot emphasize on that enough. I did not mean to leave him out. So, anyways, the man is back, says Shelby Hansen, and the man, the myth, the legend, take it away.
Wi-Fi. Issues, guys. I don't know what you guys talked about. Hopefully, I'm sure you guys did a great job. Bucky Brooks, though. Yeah, Bucky. No, for a short guy who is small.
Bucky Brooks, that what you said? That's great. Carrying on. Carry that torch. Let's go.
Yes. But for a short guy, for a guy that is 5'10" and doesn't even weigh 200 pounds, you better test well, and you didn't. And I don't think he's going to hold up at the next level as a runner, because he's not fast and his contact balance, honestly, is not there. I don't think he's going to be able to run between the tackles with how small he is. And his one big thing is he can catch passes, which is like awesome. But Will Shipley's in this class. And if I'm going to have someone, if I'm drafting a pass catching running back, it's going to be Will Shipley because he's a better athlete and has more volume and has more production at the college level and has just shown the ability to do it at a higher end than what Bucky does.
Bucky. Nice.
Bucky. So I can't get there on Bucky. He's like okay, but like I'm not taking him before like the 5th round. I don't like him at all. Anyways, Marshawn Lloyd, he is actually my back 3. I'm a big fan of him. He's small, but he actually has some heft to him, which is nice because his big thing is obviously being a runner, and he's not quite the catcher that Bucky is, but he's a good pass catcher. But he held up well enough in pass pro. I mean, he's not amazing at it. He's not like my fourth guy on this list, but he's twitchy. He has great burst, great vision, and his ability to just cut and go is really, really good. The issues that I had with him is ball security. He has 8 fumbles on like 325 snaps. It's just, you don't like to see it. He's also smaller. He's 5'9", so he's not the best with contact, but for his size, he's not bad. And then he has this good speed and he has this amazing vision, but he just likes to bounce it out. Like there's way too many times on tape where he had a decent sized hole and foregone that hole to bounce it outside and pick up like 2-3 yards. So it's a little frustrating. But in terms of my top 2 guys, I heard you guys mentioning him. Jonathan Brooks, he was my RB1 pretty much throughout this entire process. I made a last-minute change, and he's actually at 2 now. Trey Benson is my RB1. Trey Benson's mix of size and speed. Again, if you guys have watched this podcast, like that, something about that just gets me going. He's 6'1", and he has like breakaway, like real track speed that he is going to be able to. I love Blake. Like you guys were talking about Blake at college, he was okay, but the speed's not there for Blake. He's not going to break away from defenses. Trey's going to do that. Trey is one of the only like 2 or 3 guys in this class that I can confidently say has the speed to burst off an 80-yard run. And him being 6'1" is absolutely wild, and he uses the 6'1". The one thing I liked about this season more than the others, they actually use him in the pass game, which is awesome. The issues with him, he's just stiff. He doesn't have that lateral ability that a guy like Jonathan Brooks has. And then he looks to create contact, which like I'm not a big fan of. Instead of like running around a guy, he'd rather go through you. He's 6'1". I understand it. But just in terms of longevity and prolonging your career, I'd rather have you not look to truck someone. And then again, Jonathan Brooks, he's my RB2. He's just a good, solid runner. He's very patient. He has good vision. He can make good catches in the passing game, and he has really good pass pro. The big issue with him is his torn ACL. He tore his ACL. I think he'll probably be good to go about halfway through mini camp. We don't know that. I'm not in these medical examination rooms seeing how that works. And then he just doesn't have a lot of touches and tape on him just because he was behind Bijan and Roshan. But I liked him. Again, he was my RB1 for a long time. But it was just so hard for me to not fall in love with Trey's speed and size. As I told you guys, Marshawn was running back 3. And then at running back 4, it's a dude who was a riser for me throughout this entire process. I kept on going back to his film. Every single time I did it, he kept on going up my boards. That's Jalen Wright. His pass pro is immaculate. He's by far the best pass pro running back in this class. And he's probably my favorite third down back in this class for that reason, because he is – I would be confident, throwing him back there immediately and getting him on the field because of that. And then he's not a bad pass catcher either. He has good breakaway speed. Like I said, there's not many guys in the class that have that. The issues with him, again, he's not super twitchy. And then yards after contact, he's not going to break a lot of tackles for you. And then on the flip side of that, a dude who I was super in love with at the beginning of this process, and Ryan can vouch for me, and he's kind of falling down the boards a little bit for me, is Braylon Allen. He's the complete opposite of that. This dude is huge. He's 6'2", and he's young. He's 20 years old. He's going to play pretty much his entire rookie season at the age of 20. Don't let that deceive you, though. He's played 3 full years in college football as the main guy. And again, he's going to be your power runner of this class. He's going to run through you. He's not going to run around you. The big thing with me is he just looks stiff. He doesn't have this amazing speed. Think of LeGarrette Blount. Not that LeGarrette Blount was one of the best power backs in football, or at least he was when he played. That's kind of what I'm going to be looking for him, or a better AJ Dillon. Both of you guys know at least a little bit about AJ Dillon, that's for sure. Yeah. But again, the issues with him, he just looks stiff, and he's a willing pass blocker. But at 6'2", you should be much better at it than what he is. Like, Jalen Wright should not be a better pass pro than what you are, but yet here we are. And then as I came in here, you guys were also mentioning Blake. He's my RB6. He's just a junkyard bulldog. Like, that's my pro comp for him, is he's just a bulldog. He's just a big ball of muscle. He's small. He's 5'8", but he's dense and very strong. It's weird to say a 5'8" guy is going to be your power runner, but because he's so strong, he has that leverage, and he's quick. But the big issues with him is, we talked about it with JJ. He has a lot of tread on his tire. Michigan leaned on him a lot. So I wonder how much he's going to have, if he's going to even have a second contract here in the NFL. And then he just lacks that top speed. He's quick, but anything outside of like 20 yards, he's going to get caught. But those are my top 6. I have 3 more for you guys, but I know if you guys want to jump in and talk about any of these guys.
I got a lot of sleepers, so I'm looking forward to hearing those, because I've really just diven deep into these within the last few days, and obviously I'm a big combine guy. But yeah, this class, kind of like what I was telling Ryan earlier, is I don't feel like it's very top heavy, but dang, there's a lot of value to be found on day 3. Like, there's at least 6, 7, 8 guys that I would be more comfortable and ecstatic to get in the 5th round than I would be taking someone in the 2nd or 3rd. It's just such a deep class, and there's so much value late, I kind of feel like.
Yeah, my thing is more so, see, running backs are always extremely hard to get right. You know what I mean? Like, they're really diamond in the rough positions, and because of that, like, I try to kind of be, I am a little bit hesitant regarding that, and for that reason, that's why I'm kind of just telling everybody who my people are, who I like, who I don't like. And, I'm just excited from a fan aspect just to see. I love a good rookie running back. Like, I love that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if you can come out and guns a-blazing, take somebody's starting spot, by all means, do it. Like, I want to watch that, not only because I'm a fan of football and I just love the story, but I'm a fantasy football player, man. I want some, give me some late round gold. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I thought that it was going to be it for, I forget the Tennessee running back's name. What's the other one?
Jalen Wright?
No. Titans. I'm sorry.
Tajay Spears.
Yeah.
Yes. I thought for sure that he was going to take that leap and take over for Derrick Henry. But unfortunately, yeah. So, but who knows? I'm just saying, I'm looking forward to it. Nobody really specifically, but I really do think Marshawn Lloyd's probably my number 1 guy. If that's, as far as how excited I am to see them perform at the pro level, but it's not. I don't see a bona fide starter in this class. Like, week 1, go ahead, plug and play. Like, eventually, like, these guys could definitely start, but it's like, you know what? Like, I just don't see them right now being like, I'm going to draft this guy in the 2nd or 3rd round, and he's going to be my starting running back. I just don't see it.
I think that's a frustrating conversation that, like, people are having around this draft class. If you don't believe that, like, I'm begging you to put on, and this isn't specifically targeted at you. I'm just begging you to put on the Trey Benson tape. Again, a dude that runs 6'1", or a dude that's 6'1" and runs in the 4.3s is going to immediately come in and knows how to use his power and can pass catch. He's okay. He's the best pass pro, but he's not bad at it. But again, a dude who's as fast as he is, as big as he is, as strong as he is, and can catch as well as he can. I don't understand that. And also, I like Jonathan Brooks. I think he's going to come in. I think he's going to do just fine. But yeah, I like the depth in this class.
So good.
Yes, and if we're going to continue to go down my board, a guy that Matt, a friend of the pod, that you guys have probably at this point heard us talk about enough times, Audric Estime. He loves Audric Estime. There you go. I'm not like huge on Audric Estime. He's 7. I would draft him in late day, early day 3, I would say. So with a 4th, 5th round pick. But he's just a bowling ball. Just like I joked about Blake Corum being a junkyard bulldog. Audric Estime is just a bowling ball. He's another one of these strong runners in this class that just absorbs hits. It is absolutely wild. He's going to be best in your, between the tackles, one cut offense. His top speed, again, just isn't there. His combine numbers were awful. Like he ran
was good though.
Yeah.
His pro day
yeah, exactly. He ran like a 4.8 at the combine or something like that. But then he came back and he ran like a 4.62 or something like that his pro day. So 4.52. So it absolutely helped him, like you were saying. But yeah, his top speed isn't there. And then it was just like for him, he ran into his blockers like more often than what like he should. And I think that comes back to my next point. He's just stiff and lacks like the lateral quickness. And I think that's part of the reason like he doesn't have these amazing jump cuts or anything. And I think that's why he's running into the back of his blockers often. But again, he's just a bowling ball. He's going to absorb those hits and guys are going to bounce off him.
Yeah, man, I'll give you like 3 sleepers I like. I don't know if you've dove into the tape on these guys yet, but someone I feel like is getting overlooked heavily, and he was nothing but productive, was Ray Davis from Kentucky. Ray Davis is someone where he's the complete bag. If you turn on the tape, I mean, he had 7 receiving touchdowns. He's explosive. He's just a guy that he finds ways to make it work. Another guy I like that people are going to know the name eventually, but it's Dylan Lawby from New Hampshire. Mm-hmm. That's a guy that I think if there was one sleeper in this class who comes out of nowhere and is kind of like somewhat productive, it's him. I know there's been some talk going back to the combine where teams have asked him to play like switch to receiver. I know people think he would make the transition at receiver, but I think he's a very just complete back as well. Another guy that he's a little smaller, but Kamani Vidal from Troy, he's kind of been growing on me a little bit, and Frank Gore Jr. Those are 2 guys that I really like, but they're just kind of small. But if you're really going at size, it's like I don't know if I see a huge difference between like Blake Corum and those guys. Because I'm very low on Corum. Like he's in like my top 8. His size concerns me. His short legs. His official measurables. I think he's 5'7", 202. I think, and I believe I read a stat where it's like 25 of it, or like it was like 24 of his 27 touchdowns came at like the goal line. So obviously we know the breakaway speed's not there. But one thing I will say that the pro day, it helped me move up my rankings a little bit into my top 5 to 6 because his value I feel like is going to be as a receiving. Like he's got hands, or he's got hands. He is. And I mean I don't know if we all saw the JJ McCarthy throw that people comparing to Zach Wilson. That was a wheel route to Blake Corum. And Corum got down there pretty quickly. So Corum is a guy that is going to be a great 3rd down back, I think, for someone. And he's going to make his money where could he be an Austin Eckler type player? Maybe. I know he doesn't have the speed, but I could see him just being that guy where he looks faster than he is on tape. Like he plays faster than he may look or run. But he ran like a 4.52. I mean, Dalvin Cook ran a 4.5 flat if you want to think about it. And
yeah.
10-yard split was it 1.58, 1.58, I think.
Yeah, and he pumped out those. He had I think it was like 28 reps on the bench press. He had more than Joe, or he had more than Joe Alt on the bench press. Like he's, I don't know. I like him, but I mean it's easy for me to say with the Michigan flag hanging here in the background. We'll go through these last 2 guys kind of quickly, and then there's a sleeper I kind of want to talk about. A guy that's been kind of climbing up everyone's draft boards, Louisville running back Isaac Guerendo. He ran the fastest time of any of the running backs He ran a 4.33. I think that's what it is off the top of my head. So he has elite speed. I'm not surprised. He has the track background. He ran that all throughout college. He actually came in as a wide receiver, and that's kind of like the big issue with him is he still kind of has those wide receiver tendencies. He's not very patient in the backfield. He runs straight up. But he's an athlete. He's going to be great again in your powers. He's just going to cut up the field and go. And he's twitchy. He's fast. We love him. And then at 9, a guy I had already talked about with you guys, Will Shipley. He's another one of these good third down running backs. He's a great pass catcher. He has volume at the college level at a high program like Clemson. And he's just an instinctive runner. He's not like amazing. He's not super powerful. He's not super fast. He's sudden though, which we like. And then I see Coach Tyler here in the comments. He'd love to hear this in terms of a sleeper back. Tyrone Tracy out of Purdue. He's another one of these wide receivers who had transferred and started playing running back, and he's also just like a lot of fun. He has not had a lot of time. He's only had 1 year as a full-time running back, but he's really flashed. And again, as you would hope from a running back or a wide receiver turning into a running back, he has really good hands. And then we're talking about a lot of these fun stories with these wide receivers turning into running back. A guy that you had mentioned before, and Ray Davis, man. His story, if you guys don't know about Ray Davis's story, I'm not going to dig too much into it, but the man has fought for everything. He was like out of homes, in and out his entire life. He had to be the main provider for his siblings at like the age of 10, and then like a family took him in, and then it was a whole thing. If you guys are really interested into like one of these fun, wholesome football stories for a guy who had to fight for everything and is now having a chance to make his dream come true, really look into the background of Ray Davis. It's definitely heartwarming. So, but yes, these are the running backs. Next week, we're getting close. Next week, probably offensive line and tight ends, and I think that's everything. I could be wrong, but I think it's offensive line and tight ends, and then outside of that, we have done everything else. So if you guys are interested in our thoughts on any positions, go ahead and listen to the last, I think 4 or 5 episodes, and we dig into pretty much every position there. So
I'm excited. Draft season is fully underway, and I want to also tell people we are doing Mock Draft Monday, where we are posting a mock draft on our YouTube channel. Now, last year and the year prior, we were putting out mock drafts on our actual Spotify and YouTube and Apple Podcasts. I mean, anything, right? We were putting it out everywhere. This is YouTube exclusive, until I could figure out how to put it out on Twitter, because I know a lot of people are watching on Twitter too. We're working on it, but as of right now, mock draft Mondays are happening on YouTube. So if you want to know about our mock drafts, 1 round, everybody knows the rules. Just go ahead and give it a look, because it's a lot of fun. Speaking of a lot of fun, let's get into our last segment.
It's time for America's favorite game, Weddle.
Guys, I'm on a fluke of a run. 2 straight days. I am doing very good, okay? Tom and I, we played Draftle before this. And
Draftle is like my favorite thing ever invented.
Well, so we had to kind of familiarize our guest with Weddle, because, Tom said he's not very familiar with it. And so this is Weddle. So I'm going to go ahead and start us off for the easy mode. But what we're going to do, from top to bottom in camera order, from, on the screen, we're just going to go down the line and just guess players, and whoever gets it, gets it. I think if Ben or myself get the player, then we'll count it as a point. And then if Tom gets it, then we'll just count it as a break for the week. So that's really it. And chalk it up to bonus points. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and start us off here with, I'll say DJ Moore, just because, Bears fan.
That'd be a lot of fun.
Ben?
Yeah, for those who don't know, this is the easy mode. We help each other out on the easy mode. The hard mode is where it gets serious. Not a younger wide receiver in the AFC or in the NFC, but not in the North. Not super tall. Chris Godwin?
Want to say Godwin's a little taller.
Yeah, he might be 6'1". Yeah, I knew it as soon as I
Narrowing
said it.
down the divisions. No big deal. Tom?
Okay, so it's
He's
got
older, though.
So it's I'm trying to see here. Oof. I'm kind of stumped because so how does the game work exactly? Like, so I got to find someone with similar like measurables.
Yeah,
So
we know it's in the NFC because it's yellow there, but obviously it's not in the North or South. I think I know who it is, by the way.
It's for sure a wide receiver. So it's in either the East or the West division in the NFC. He's close to 6 foot, and there's the down arrow, so it's a little bit shorter. He's a little bit older than 28, and his jersey number is close to 2. So, anything? Any guesses?
I'm gonna watch you guys for a little bit.
No problem. All right.
Okay.
So I'm thinking. Let's see.
I think I know who it is. I can shoot it if you want me to.
Give me the division or the division.
I think he's in the East.
The East. Okay.
And this past year was his first year in the East because he's played everywhere. It feels like at this point, and he's been productive everywhere he's played.
Huh.
I think I could be wrong on who it is, but I'm pretty sure.
Why can't I think of the other team? There's Falcons. Never mind. I'm thinking of it right now. It's fine.
No, the NFC, the East. The East is the Eagles.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Yes, the East. That would actually make a lot more sense. Okay. East. Okay, so you're looking at. Okay, so it's got to be Cooks, right?
That's who I was thinking.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Nice. All right. Cool. Okay. So short, quick round. Tom, feel free to jump in whenever you're comfortable. Right. Okay. Ben, I guess Lasso. I'm gonna do it again.
Sweet.
It's gonna be a thing.
I'm waiting for the day that it's gonna be Herman Dexter.
All right. So hard mode, Tom, is offense, defense, and special teams. Okay. So just so you know, and it's every player, including depth. There's been 4th string players that come up. I mean, it's ridiculous, but whatever, Okay. Ben and I, we've definitely played this more than the amount of times that I told you that counts for the record. It's just because we've waved the white flag so many times that, this game gets crazy. Anyways, continue, Ben.
Yeah, but then sometimes it's like Fred Warner. So so I don't overthink it too much. I've definitely hurt myself. I guess Skylar Thompson last week and it was Tua. So
yeah,
what are you going to do? But to help you out here, so we know it's an NFC team because it shows out to be yellow, Tom. But it can't be a defense, or he's obviously not on defense. If he was on defense, it would have showed up as yellow. So he's either special teams or offense. And then he's shorter at least because if he was close to 6'6", it would have showed up as yellow. And then he's older because if he was close to 2020 or 22, it would have also showed up as yellow. So I'm going to guess in an offensive player. Hopefully it's not special teams because special teams are probably screwed. An offensive player. We'll go shorter offensive player. We'll go Saquon.
All right.
So he's a special team.
Special teams. Okay. All right. Tom, are you wanting to guess a special teamer?
And he has to either be in the south or west. So
yeah, I'm trying to think here. So like, what is green? I know yellow means it's right. Like, what is green?
Green means it's correct. Like right on the money. 27 years old is for sure how old this player is.
This feels like a terrible pick, but I'm trying to think of a special teams guy in the South, and I'm trying to think of their returners. Like I don't I mean, could it be Shaheed? I mean, it could be like I'm thinking Shaheed or Smith Marset.
I'll help you out since it's your first time.
Yeah.
As far as special teams goes, you're looking at like punters and kickers.
Punters and kickers, okay. I do know a few of them.
Really picking your brain here.
Yeah, I know. I mean, isn't maybe Gillian from the Dolphins?
What's his first name?
I'm trying to remember his first name. I don't know. He was like a rookie, I think.
He's a kicker, right?
Or a punter.
Jamie.
Oh,
yeah.
Gillian. That's what it is.
Yeah, okay. I misspelled his name. Okay. All right, so he's a kicker. 6'1" in the NFC West. Let's see.
Or South.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It's
27.
I forget who he kicks for, but man, I don't think. Yeah, whatever.
Isn't it the?
He is an indie. He is an indie. Dang it.
He's with the Bucks, right? What about who's the Panthers kicker? Is it Pinheiro?
Pinheiro, yeah.
You got him.
Yeah, but it has to be in.
Yeah, that could work.
It could be. It could.
I'm trying to think of the kickers that are in the South or in the South.
Yeah, we'll go.
Bucks kicker is the former Vikings kicker. I forgot his name. Oof.
Eddie.
Eddie Pinheiro.
All right,
Okay.
so he's in the NFC South, but he's not. I think I know who it is.
Okay, Tom, you got another guess?
I just don't. I don't remember his name. He's on the Bucks. He's on the Bucks. Used to be on the Browns and the Vikings.
Dang it, man!
It's the Bucks kick. Oh my god! How do I not know this guy's name?
This is the frustrating part. Is like when you know a player, but you can't remember his name. And the nice thing is like if you can get close, we can type it in and you can look through the list.
I'm pretty sure it starts with an M. So it starts with an M.
God, you put an M.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Some McLaughlin. I think it's like McLaughlin. Chase. That might be him.
Nice.
There
Tom.
you go.
Nice.
No, Chase McLaughlin.
Nice. Voiding it out, stopping my streak. Thanks a lot. No, I'm just playing. Great. Awesome. Good job. For your first time nailing hard mode. I mean, that's got to be cool, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, it took me a while to catch on, but yeah, once I figured it out, I was like, oh, okay.
That's awesome. Well, Tom, thanks for coming on. Do you have anything that you'd like to say before we finish up here?
Just thanks for having me on. Always down to talk football, especially draft, because, I'm a big draft guy. Love me some sleepers. I guess one last guy for you guys to take a look into before we log off here is from Memphis, Blake Watson. It's one of my guys. It's one of my day 3 guys I really like. So if you guys get a chance to look at his film, he's fun. He's very fun. It reminds me a little bit of Gibson. I know it's the same school and stuff, but it's a guy who former receiver turned running back. So I really like Blake Watson a lot.
Nice. All right. Ben?
Real quick. Positionless. It doesn't have to be running back.
Okay.
Who is your guy at the top of the draft, and who's your guy in terms of a sleeper? And it doesn't have to be for the Vikings, just a player that you love at the top, and then a player that you love deeper into the draft class.
Oh, okay. Well, for sure, someone that I obviously love at the top would be. I like Joe Alt. It's boring, it's bland, but he's
great.
I would say, Joe Alt or Brock Bowers are probably 2, and Caleb are probably 3 of the most safest picks. Just cornerstone. Yeah. Like they could start day 1. I have absolutely so much confidence that they will be culture changers, franchise guys, where you just don't have to worry about them. Sleeper, this is a really, really fun draft. I have a lot of sleepers.
Class is stacked.
Malik Washington from Virginia.
Oh my gosh.
That's my guy.
It makes me that you said that. I'm a Malik Washington guy. It makes me so mad that people don't talk about him enough.
I love him.
Awesome.
He checks every box you look for. I mean, he's so productive. There's over 107 catches. He should have been in the mix for the Belinkoff. Obviously I know Neighbors and Marvin it's a different breed. I understand. But, like, I mean, for his size, he plays so big, you know, and he could just stretch the field. And just seeing him make that transition from Northwestern to Virginia immediately, he just felt he's just a guy I love. And if he was even like 5'10", 5'11", I feel like everyone would be talking about him in the second round.
Yeah,
you know?
For sure.
He's very like Brandon Cooks-ish to me, where it's like the college production is so great and elite, but he is a little like, you know, he's a little smaller. But maybe he could be a better version of like Pop Douglas. So
yeah.
Gotcha. Nice. All right. Ben, anything else?
Nope. Make sure you guys stay tuned. Look again on the YouTube for the for the mock draft. And you guys just got a little taste of it there with Tom. The episode, I think before the before the draft, either episode before that or the week before that, we're gonna do like a My Guys. We're gonna have special guests. You guys can probably assume who that will be. But we're just gonna do a nice, fun like list of my guys, whether they're guys at the top of the draft, guys near the bottom, somewhere in the middle. Just a nice, fun list of my guys, and we're pretty much just gonna spend the entire episode talking about that outside of like news if something happens. So if you guys liked, where Tom was going with that, make sure you guys tune in. Again, just because it's off season doesn't mean there's a lack of guys to talk about here.
All right. Please follow us on all of our socials. I'm gonna remove you here. That way people can see exactly where to follow. But I appreciate you for coming on, man. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much.
So right above us is our Twitter, our Facebook, and our TikTok. Please go and follow us on there. And then right below as well, it shows like all of our ads as well. So please go and follow us on there. Check us out. I promise you, we're trying to keep up with as much as possible with content, and hopefully making more in the future as well. As my schedule is starting to kind of permit a couple more things for me to be flexible. So hoping to kind of incorporate that when I get things established a little bit more. So just a little bit of a, heads up here. But nonetheless, we want to thank Spotify for Podcasters, Regional Radio Sports Network, and Uppercuts Grooming for helping us grow as a podcast. And until next week, this has been the Pigskin Project.